At a healthcare facility, if a piece of equipment shuts down because it's aged, they lose patients permanently. Hospital maintenance people care. If something happens, they want to know, how do I get my generator up and running because I've got lives at stake.
There's some type of issue that causes a failure or causes downtime. That's not acceptable.
If you're doing a major service utility upgrade, you got to allow yourself for 2 years minimum. Don't think you could do it faster because you're going to be disappointed.
So another area that we've worked on a lot over the past 20 years is definitely hospitals and the healthcare market across New York State, really. But just here in Western New York, we've had the opportunity to work on a lot of different hospital projects, and we've worked on them at various different stages. We've worked with the electrical engineers, doing layouts, doing budgets, offering technical information. And then, of course, we've had the opportunity to work with electrical contractors to, coordinate pieces of equipment getting delivered. We've had the opportunity to coordinate getting custom pieces of equipment made so that they can line up, use existing conduits, match and line bus projects. We've done everything from service entrance switchgear replacements at major hospitals. And we've done projects where we've done emergency panels for ORs, we've done UPS systems, and everything in between. Right. And I think one of the things that differentiates healthcare a little bit from some of the other verticals that we work in, it's delivery times and lead times are important. But I think when we're talking healthcare, what's more important is reliability. And usually those projects roll out a little bit slower. There's more engineering involved. There's more field visits involved usually. We find ourselves making a lot of measurements in the field for healthcare projects.
And the other issue with healthcare facilities is they're not necessarily adding more equipment or bringing more equipment in that they need more power, but they have firms working with them saying, hey, this equipment is dated. This equipment needs to be upgraded. At a manufacturing plant, if a piece of equipment fails, they lose some money because it shuts down. At a healthcare facility, if a piece of equipment shuts down because it's aged, they lose patients permanently. They're watching over their equipment for somewhat of a different reason than a manufacturing plant is, or a school is, or something, because it's lives that are at stake possibly. So and back to Ryan's point, they're upgrading this stuff slowly because they want to understand what we're providing. Hospital maintenance people probably understand more about the equipment than a manufacturing maintenance person does. He doesn't care. It's behind a door and it's working. Hospital maintenance people care. If something happens, they want to know, what do I do? How do I transfer over? How do I get my generator up and running because I've got lives at stake? So it's a different situation. To your point, it's not as rushed. It's thought out very well, and a lot more time on the site by people like us making sure the customer knows exactly what's going on.
Yeah, I think uptime and reliability are important across the board, but I think to your point, reliability and which oftentimes kind of translate into the quality of the equipment and how well was a project engineered. That bar is raised when we're talking healthcare. The stakes are higher. They're different than, like as you mentioned, than they would be in an education setting or in a manufacturing facility. And I think some of the measures that we take in those situations is we might pull more resources into that project. We might bring in like a consultant to work with us who has worked in these situations before and understands what the stakes are. And furthermore, I mean, let's be honest, we have a wide breadth of vendors, and all of our vendors and manufacturing partners are great, but they all have different strengths. And I think when we talk healthcare, we're going to be talking about manufacturers that are of the highest quality,
Yeah, no
right? They
question.
might not necessarily have the best price,
Yeah.
and they might not have the best lead times,
Right.
but we're usually going to lean towards who's going to have the best quality to give the facility, the hospital, the healthcare entity the best reliability,
Yep.
right?
Yep, no question about it. I
Yeah.
agree with you 100%.
We talked about some ways that hospitals are maybe a little bit different than other verticals and other spaces that we work in. And
Right.
we talked about the importance of reliability, and which for us often equates to, you know, the quality of the manufacturing partner that we're working
Right.
with, and we're
Agreed.
making sure that we're working with the very best
Yes.
when we're talking about healthcare and we're talking about hospitals, because like you mentioned, the stakes are higher there, and uptime is the most important thing. But there's a lot of things about hospitals that are no different than the manufacturing spaces that we've talked about, or the rehab work that goes on in the downtown markets of the different cities in upstate New York, and across the Northeast. In one of the things that's no different for hospitals than it is for anybody else is, in most cases, hospitals have aging infrastructure.
Yes.
They installed their service entrance switchgear and their power distribution switchgear decades ago.
Right.
And hopefully it's been maintained.
Yeah.
And but in a lot of cases, they keep adding power to it incrementally. Their power needs are not growing dramatically day to day
Right.
or year to year, but over time,
Yeah.
over decades, they've maxed out their infrastructure. So now what we've been seeing over the past number of years is hospitals doing significant power upgrades to everything from their service entrance
Yeah.
panel
Yeah.
all the way to their OR panels
No
and
argument.
everything in between.
No argument.
Right? And, so again, it's important there, maybe even more important in a hospital situation, that on the front end, working with utility,
Right.
making sure that service entrance switchgear is exactly what they need,
Yeah.
making sure that when it gets delivered, it matches in lines to minimize downtime.
Yep.
We're reusing existing conduit holes. You talked about it before. We got to minimize downtime, and we got to make sure that the equipment that's showing up has been tested and gone through, so
Yeah.
that there are no issues upon energization.
Agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. We did a couple of large VA hospitals, and they upgraded their equipment massively because of additions and years of just using what they had and then finding out it really was inadequate. So, we took care of Canandaigua and Buffalo.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
This is our third time at Buffalo in my history of upgrading equipment.
Yeah, I mean, you've been doing this so long that you've actually installed gear, ripped it out, installed it, ripped it out, and now we're doing a third run through
Third
at some
time.
of these places, right?
It brings tears to my eyes when I see this old
Yeah.
equipment I sold being thrown in the garbage.
Well, it's time, right? But I mean, it's that's quite a story to tell, right? And over time, I mean,
Yeah, right.
it was important 40 years ago,
Yeah.
but it's even more
Oh,
important
no
today.
question.
And some of the things that we're doing to ensure that we're delivering to hospitals the correct equipment and equipment that's ready for energization. Some of the things that we're doing is taking extra time, field measurements, working with the electrical contractor to put together a plan, if you
Yep.
will, on how they're going to remove the old gear, install the new gear. Sometimes we're talking about having conversations about rigging.
Yeah.
We're talking about bringing representatives in directly from the manufacturer to advise and assist to make sure that whatever learning curve might take place on the day of the shutdown is minimal.
Yep. Yep.
Right? And other things that we're doing is we're sending qualified people to manufacturing facilities when that equipment's done, after the manufacturer has gone through their own QC processes. We're doing
We
a
do it.
secondary
Yeah.
QC.
Yeah.
Because we're looking for anything and everything
Yeah.
that might be an issue upon
No
energization,
question about
right?
it. No question at all. Yeah, I
Right,
agree.
and that's all, and we're doing that across the board, but we're doubling down on it in a hospital application.
agree.
In a hospital application, going above and beyond is not something that we cannot do. And
Gotta
we're
do.
always trying to go above and beyond. But in healthcare, hospitals, every time.
No, you're right.
Always.
I like to say that from start to finish, if you're doing a major service utility upgrade, you got to allow yourself for 2 years minimum.
That is the number. 2 years is the number that the industry talks about right now. You want to do a service entrance switchgear upgrade, it's 2 years. By the time you start interfacing with the utility and you're working with your designer and manufacturing, it's a 2-year process.
And you can think you can do it faster. Don't think you can do it faster, because you're going to be disappointed.
But our competitors are taking even longer, right?
Right.
And so that's one of the things that's great about us and our manufacturing partners is we do have the fastest lead times in the industry. We also have the most experience, the most knowledge, and the most relationships in this space, right? So we can take all of that experience and ensure that we're being really efficient with the customer's timeline. Because even though we might be 2 years out, to your point, we know that 2 years is going to go by really quick.
Flies.
So it's important that we're taking all of our experience from the past 30, 40 years in all of our relationships, and then partnering it with the best manufacturing partner that we can for that particular application. And even though it takes us extra time to go out to the field and measure and to bring somebody in to do secondary QC, even though those steps actually add weeks to the overall equation, they actually buy us a lot of time back on the back end, because when that equipment shows up,
that's right,
there's no issues. If we're not taking those measures, or not going to that length and not taking those steps, if things get missed and there's issues that arise, if that equipment's not correct when it lands, if there's wiring issues, if there's any quality issues, and it hits the site, and upon energization there's some type of issue that causes a failure or causes downtime, that's something that's not acceptable.
No,
and
absolutely
and
not.
we go to great lengths to make sure that that doesn't happen.